Street stocks drifted to a mixed close as drops for Microsoft and other tech stocks overshadowed gains for much of the rest of Wall Street. The Dow added 91, the Nasdaq lost 171. America is listening to Fox News.
Heart failure, carpal tunnel syndrome, shortness of breath, stomach issues, lower back pain. How does it all add up? If you have heart failure and any of those seemingly unrelated symptoms sound familiar, it's time to talk with your cardiologist and get the full picture. They may add up to transthyretin amyloid cardiomyopathy. ATTR-CM is a rare and underdiagnosed disease. Recognize the signs and discuss them with your doctor soon. Learn more at connectwithyourheart.com. That's connectwithyourheart.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
There are more identity threats than you realize. Even if you monitor your credit, only a little personal info needs to leak out, like your social security number or password.
Or you to become a victim.
LifeLock alerts you to threats you could miss. If your identity is stolen, a dedicated U.S.-based restoration specialist will work to fix it. No one can prevent all identity theft or monitor all transactions, but everyone can save up to 25% off their first year with promo code NEWS. Go to LifeLock.com.
The Nevada Commission on Ethics investigating the state's new governor.
He's been on the job for just over 6 months. Now Governor Joe Lombardo will have to fend off claims that he used his position and government resources improperly when he was the Clark County Sheriff and a candidate for the top office in the Silver State. The ethics panel publishing a 456-page report outlining the results of its investigation that includes allegations of 68 ethics violations. One example cited in the complaint is when Lombardo wore his sheriff's badge while dressed in civilian clothing for a campaign video, even though public officers and employers are required to avoid conflicts between public duties and private interests. CJ Papa, Fox News.
A pro wrestling legend has died.
The Iron Sheik.
One of the biggest baddies in wrestling has died. The Iron Sheik. His real name was Hossein Khosrow Ali Vaziri, was 81 years old, and most fans will know the wrestler for his 1980s epic rivalries with one of the greats, Hulk Hogan. Sheik was a former WWF World Heavyweight Champion and was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2005. In one of wrestling's biggest matches, Hogan defeated Vaziri at New York's Madison Square Garden to win the belt for the first time. That match helped catapult Hulkamania into a phenomenon, leading into the first WrestleMania 1 year later. Michelle Polino, Fox News.
The Consumer Product Safety Commission is urging consumers to stop using baby pillows that have been linked to 10 infant deaths but are still being sold on Facebook Marketplace despite being recalled 2 years ago. The Bobby newborn loungers are no longer legally for sale, but the agency says it's found thousands of them on Facebook Marketplace and has written to Mark Zuckerberg. The company says Marketplace posts featuring recalled products are removed when identified. I'm Lisa Lacera. This is Fox News.
Hi.
Oh, of course. There you go.
Better say something.
This is Brandon Taylor with the Lawrence County Republican Party, and we want to welcome you again to join us this evening. We're going to be on live this evening from 5 to 6 p.m. And in the studio with me right now, sitting across the table, is Lawrence Sutton, Secretary of the Lawrence County GOP. And we are excited to be here one more time. There's been a lot going on in the last few days. Lawrence, how are you this evening?
I'm doing really good. Yes, there's been a lot going on with what's happening, in not only in our state but also our country.
Absolutely. Also,
Do I still have you?
in studio,
Yeah.
we have Lawrence's daughter.
Y'all might have to fire me.
Well, we're not going to fire you, Charlotte. We'll probably promote you. That's normally what we do with people. But
Yes, but you still have the congressman, so help yourself.
right. So also on the line with us right now, we're absolutely thrilled that you're on the line with us. Thank you for calling in. Our Congressman Scott DesJarlais is also on the line live with us. He has a few minutes to answer a few questions, and we're glad you called, Scott. How are you?
I'm doing great, and it's great to be representing Lawrence County again after a 10-year hiatus.
Well, welcome back. And I know that you've been planning on getting down to our Lawrence County Community GOP meetings, and we would love to go ahead and invite you to be with us on June 27th at 6 p.m. at the courthouse. We're actually going to have the Beacon Center of Tennessee, Scott. They're going to be coming in and talking about school choice and pushing some legislation for school choice in the state of Tennessee.
Yeah, well, certainly I think that's a great endeavor on your part. On the 27th, I believe we're going to have the chairman of agriculture, G.T. Thompson, coming in, and we're going to be doing a kind of a farm bill listening session in Nashville Monday and Tuesday. So it may not work this month, but if I don't catch this one, we'll certainly get scheduled in for another.
Awesome. We'll keep you posted. Listen,
Okay.
Getting right into it, Scott.
Yeah.
We know what the news is. Debt ceiling, you voted no. Tell us a little bit about what your thoughts were on the debt ceiling.
Okay, well, when I came to Congress and first represented you all, the debt was $13 trillion. Now it's $33 trillion, and sadly, we have not passed a single budget since I've been in office. And we have continuing resolutions, we have omnibus spending bills, we have debt ceiling increases, and frankly, our credit card's been maxed out this whole time. And so, even though Speaker McCarthy was kind of behind the eight ball a little bit with Biden in the White House and Schumer in the Senate saying that they wanted a clean debt ceiling deal, we did pass a bill through the House, Limit, Save, and Grow Act, that gave us some negotiating tools. And so he was able to take that and, squeeze right up to the very end and get some concessions like raising work requirements for able-bodied adults from age 49 to 54, which seems like just be a logical step. And really across all political spectrums, Democrats, Independents, and Republicans are in favor of able-bodied people who can work, should work, to receive welfare benefits. So it seems something we had in the Farm Bill in 2018, and for some unknown reason the Senate took it out, but we did get that. We did claw back some IRS money, and we put a few caps on spending. But all in all, considering the scope of our debt, I didn't feel like it met the standard of the Tennessee 4th District, and something that probably 90+% of the calls, letters, emails I got were to not support this bill. If it had been a Republican passed bill, I would have supported it because we could have gone back to the negotiating table. But there was, I think, more Democrats than Republicans actually voted for this in the House, and I think there was about 71 of us that voted against it, which is unfortunately kind of the pattern I've seen in my years here. So it just didn't meet the standards to bend the curve. We're on a path for default. I think that's not a matter of if, it's when, and nobody wants it on their watch. So politicians are notorious for kicking the can down the road, and unfortunately that's happened again. And so we've got to keep pulling things to the right and have serious discussions about how to bend that curve and cut this spending. We have record tax revenues right now. We're bringing in more tax dollars than we ever have in the history of the country. We just spend too darn much money.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, but thank goodness that we have people like you at least trying to keep the spending under control, and really, you really have done a good job representing us, sir. I wanted to get your thought process, even though I know you're not on this House committee, but can you kind of give us a update on what's happening with James Comer and what he has been doing with the pay to play with Biden and our DOJ and FBI and what they have been doing?
Yeah, and I served on the Oversight Committee for a number of years. I haven't been on it since we went on Armed Services. But James Comer, here's an advantage to being in the majority. Even though we have a slim majority, we get to call the witnesses. We get to decide what is heard. So even though the mainstream media isn't going to talk about things in a fair manner, we're at least able to control the narrative coming out of committees, and James Comer and Jim Jordan and others are doing their best to hold the DOJ and the FBI accountable for what clearly is meddling in elections and a two-tier system of justice. Hillary Clinton got treated completely different when she destroyed evidence on her emails.
Right.
Trump was treated completely unfairly when it came to the Steele dossier and FISA warrants, and then Hunter Biden comes along with a laptop that everybody knew was his, but yet 51 or 53 former CIA agents signed a letter before the Trump-Biden debate saying that it was Russian disinformation. We now know that's completely false, and we've lost faith in our DOJ and FBI. So, there's a document that Christopher Wray, the director of the FBI, has in his possession. First, he denied having it. Then he admitted having it and showed it to James Comer and Jamie Raskin, the chair and ranking member of the Oversight Committee. And, Kevin McCarthy said that's not good enough. The American people need to see it, and we're going to hold the director of the FBI in contempt of Congress, and that would happen tomorrow if he doesn't produce the document. Well, about probably an hour ago, I saw a little wire that he has agreed to show it to the entire committee in a SCIF or in a secure environment. And I'm not sure. It's not a classified document, so I don't know why that's the case. He acts like it could compromise the integrity of the FBI if the American people see it. And I think the integrity in FBI is kind of an oxymoron at this point because they clearly are not playing with a full deck. And so we'll see what happens tomorrow. And if the entire committee gets to see the document that indicates that Biden's took $5 million in money and it was transferred throughout their family, then clearly there's going to be a lot to explain. And so I do think that we're pulling threads, and tomorrow will be an interesting day in that hearing. And hopefully they can get to the bottom of it. But we need to restore the credibility of the FBI and DOJ because I think most Americans have no faith in them. And frankly, we used to bash third world countries for having unfair and rigged elections. And, I think a lot of people question election integrity in this country, especially when the FBI, DOJ have meddled essentially in the last two major presidential elections and others.
Yes, sir. The other thing that, at least here in Lawrence County, we tend to, cling to our guns and our religion. And you're on the Second Amendment caucus. What is being done with our Second Amendment rights? Because we're not only on the federal level, but even right now we're having to fight on the state level with Governor Lee wanting these red flag laws.
Yeah. Well, we continue to hold firm. It's one of the things that it's a Democratic issue, always trying to take guns, and it's a Republican issue. It seems to protect our Second Amendment rights as it should be by the Constitution. So, we fight this at every turn, and schools are frequently attacked because there are no gun zones, and most every mass shooting and crime that takes place is in a gun-free zone. So, I believe that resource officers at schools, in Nashville, the police responded quickly, but not quickly enough. We had 3 dead kids and 3 dead parents, and so I think that you got to have resource officers. I think you have to have certain people selected at various schools to be able to counter these threats. Nothing's going to be perfect, but if it's not a gun, it's going to be something else. The Idaho murders, the guy goes in and stabs 4 people to death. People take people out with cars. It's mental health issues. It's crazy people. It seems like it's getting worse in this country. I don't know if it's the divide, whether it's the wokeism, it's the DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. I don't know what's going on, but it's as bad as I've ever seen it. But it's not because we're gun owners. If anything, the gun owners are what keep us safe.
Sure, and we see that we're being singled out because they push to remove firearms from someone that they say is mentally unstable or perhaps would be a threat to themselves or someone else, but we don't see them banning them from being able to buy gasoline or matches or taking away kitchen knives from them. So we just see it singled out for the gun owners. We totally agree with that, and we are on the front line on the fight of that here in Tennessee.
Honestly, I don't know that if you see somebody walking down the street with a gun that looks threatening or a couple of guns strapped around their chest, I don't think there's anything that prevents you from calling the police and say, hey, you may want to check this dude out. This doesn't look right. Or when I was a physician, if you had somebody that seems suicidal or unstable, I could talk to the families and say, do you have unsecured firearms in your house? If this person, if you feel like might be a threat to himself, maybe you want to lock those up. So we can already do those things. Common sense would tell you that, we don't necessarily need laws that in all likelihood are going to be abused to do the right thing. So I think there's steps in place that we can already take to do a lot of what people are trying to codify into law.
We totally agree. We're actually a little bit upset about the special session that's been called in Tennessee, so that's kind of a sensitive area for us.
I think a lot of people are.
Yes, sir. And to piggyback on what you said about, most mass shootings happen in gun-free zones. There was actually a study that I had saw that was done by a gentleman by the name of John Lott, who's an economic and president of the Crime Prevention Research Center. And he found that 98.4% of all mass public shootings from 1950 to 2016 occurred in gun-free zones.
Yeah, that's not a coincidence.
No, sir, it's not.
You're on the House Committee on Armed Services, Scott. Can you give us an update on the situation with Ukraine and how it relates to the U.S. right now?
Yeah, this has been an ongoing challenge, and I had a classified briefing on it yesterday regarding the offensive, counteroffensive, and I know constituents are frustrated with the amount of money pouring into Ukraine, and I have mixed feelings because I get a lot of information. We're actually getting smoked out up here with that Canadian fire. We got quite a bit of smoke in D.C., so
wow.
Excuse my coughing. But
we're dealing with the Tennessee allergy season.
So we look at Russia as an adversary. They had kind of an unprovoked invasion of a country. If it had been Poland or Romania or a NATO ally, we would have been obligated by the NATO treaty to defend them. Ukraine is kind of a unique situation. I visited in 2017, watched the training we were doing for the Ukrainian troops in Lviv, went to Kyiv, went to Dnipro, and we were doing a good job training the soldiers after the Russians took over Crimea. And so initially the big threat was, would Russia stop with Ukraine, or would they move into countries like Estonia and other allies of ours? And so at the beginning, supporting Ukraine seemed to make sense. Russia was supposed to basically occupy the country by the weekend, and here we are a year plus out, and we're still fighting. And now here we are once again in essentially a proxy war with no solid end game. And people get really frustrated. We're pouring billions of dollars into this fight. Our European allies are contributing, which they should. It's right in their backyard. And that's one thing Trump was great about, was getting our allies to ramp up their defense spending and meet their NATO assessment. So, I mean, I do think Russia's a threat. I do think that we've learned a lot about their military capabilities. I think that they have been degraded, which they are. Right now I think China is probably our biggest threat and adversary, and we'll get into that in a minute. But I do think that there's some value in what we're doing in helping Ukraine, but I also think that it's gone a little far when we're paying for government functions and pensions when we're having our own debt crisis here. So I empathize with the people that are tired of sending money there that we don't really have to spend. I also am mindful as an armed services member of what the threat Russia is to us and as one of our primary adversaries. So you gotta find a balance there and strike a balance. But what I've been telling the Biden administration, the Department of Defense, when they come in, is that we need to be able to explain this better to the American people. If it was Trump, first of all, I don't think it would have ever happened. I don't think Putin would have gone in. But had he done that, the president needs to be on TV addressing the nation, telling them what the objective is, why we're doing this, why we're spending this money, because I understand the confusion. You all don't get all the information I do. I think that there's some validity to the fight, but I also think it's kind of going a little bit overboard, and we need to have an exit strategy, and that needs to be communicated to the people.
Do you find that with Russia being the threat that they are, do you find that China being the bigger threat though?
I do. They have a very strategic plan. Their Belt and Road Initiative. They want to be the preeminent, dominant world power by 2050, and frankly, I think they're about 10, 15 years ahead of schedule.
Wow.
They're a communist party, so they don't have labor laws and other things. So economically, they have a pretty big engine. Obviously, a big exporter. They're going into countries in Africa and other places, building some schools, building some hospitals, and trading for mineral rights. And as I think we talked about before the show went on live, was buying farmland in the United States was absolutely ridiculous because they're buying them near military establishments. They had the whole spy balloon thing. They're threatening Taiwan, and certainly they're acting as aggressors. They are leading the world right now in hypersonic weapons. The U.S. kind of dropped the ball on that one probably for a decade or so. We're trying to play catch up, but they have some capabilities in space and in some advanced weaponry that is troubling to me, and I think they have a strategy that is one of aggression, certainly in the South China Sea. I think that they definitely plan on taking Taiwan, and we have to decide how we're going to respond to that. The president has been very he said that if they go in, we're going to support Taiwan, but then the White House walks it back, so there's all this ambiguity that's going on, and I think his weakness may embolden President Xi. And, if we don't need a two-front conflict, we don't need Ukraine, we don't need Taiwan. either one of them, but we need to be operating from a position of strength and clarity, and I think that we've lost that with this administration.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Checking on time. Are you okay with your time? Do you have time for another question?
I can go another 5 minutes.
Oh, great. So want to touch a little bit about the border and what's been going on at the border. And we're seeing a lot of reports about military-age men that are mainly coming into our border. Can you touch on that and kind of give us an update on what you know?
Yeah, this is just mind-boggling that we've been watching this now for 2.5 years and listening to Mayorkas and the administration saying the border is secure. Even our top generals and people that I've kind of between Milley and Secretary Austin, I don't have a lot of respect because these guys are supposed to operate down the middle, but I think they've been operating from the left for a while now. Milley's going to be gone, but all of our top generals say without border security there is no national security, and clearly, people are coming to this country because they're being allowed to. The Biden administration has let 5 million people come into this country in the last 2 years, and then maybe another 1 or 2 million gotaways. And those people don't want to be let into the country legally or seek asylum. They're here for other reasons. They're not being caught because they don't want to be. They're probably your drug dealers, the people who are the biggest threat to our nation, and we don't even have an accurate count on what that is. But, just the fentanyl deaths in the country, which is being funneled via China to the Mexican cartels, all the trafficking that's going on, just the free, these aren't children and refugee families seeking asylum. There's militant-age people coming, the Taliban jail that was, or prison that was released before the withdrawal from Afghanistan. We're tracking people that were let out of that prison coming through the southern border that are a definite threat to the United States, maybe an imminent threat. That we're watching, very closely. And the amazing thing to me was that when Title 42 expired and Fox News was covering because they expected a big flux of people that day, well, it didn't happen. Biden sent troops to the border, and so it just shows that it can be stopped. It can be slowed down when he wants it to. He just doesn't want it to be. When Trump wanted to send troops to the border, they were saying that's martial law. You can't do it. That's illegal. And so it's very frustrating to see this administration just continue to let a free flow. Really, enough people have come across the border since Biden's been president to repopulate the state of Tennessee. And, we're all seeing people distributed around the country with no transparency. I was arguing in the Ag Committee today that we're about to write the Farm Bill, and 85% of the Farm Bill is food stamps or SNAP. And if you are 18 or younger and you come into this country as a non-citizen, you qualify for SNAP. If you're an asylum seeker under Section 208, you qualify for SNAP. So by my calculation, that could be another 5 million people going on SNAP on our welfare program. But Secretary Vilsack with USDA, Secretary Mayorkas, they won't answer my question of how many of these people are qualifying. I'm having a very difficult time getting the numbers, but the own USDA website says that these people qualify with no waiting period. So it's been a real source of frustration. We've been battling that, and we'll continue to do so. But it threatens our economy and threatens the program for Americans who it was designed to take care of.
And I just got to say,
the border's
for
an
all
absolute
those
disaster, and
yes.
It's got to be addressed. I can't explain it, that we look at this every day and it continues to happen.
Yeah, and it's mind-boggling for us as well. And I got to say it for all those that are probably yelling at the radio right now. It's almost as if we open the door and then we pay people to come into our country illegally. It's amazing.
That's exactly what has happened.
So it's very frustrating for us on our end. And as we go forward, I know you're about to run out of time, but as we go forward, we would love for you to keep in contact with us. And we're here for the Lawrence County citizens. We're here for our elected officials, such as yourself, being able to get the word out to folks. Most of the people now are having a hard time trusting a lot of the media that's out there. It's slanted. It's very liberal. So we're trying to provide a venue where we can get the truth and we can get it out there to our citizens.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate you doing this, and I'm happy to come on. When we're in session here, most evenings about this time, I will have time to get on and visit with you all. But Super Talk out of Nashville does a great job. We're very limited. It seems like 85-90% of the media in this country is just pure propaganda. We used to mock the Soviet Union in the 70s and 80s because their citizens didn't know the truth or what was going on because it was all state-run media. I feel like that's a big threat in our country as well. And so I'm thankful that you all are doing this show, and we have other people that at least make an attempt to let people hear, in my opinion, what the truth is. I know through COVID, I would post things that have been absolutely vindicated now on my official government Facebook, and it would get canceled and censored, and they'd be sent to a CDC site. And it's really amazing to see what I knew was true at the time as a physician come to fruition now, and that the whole crisis was politicized, and people were duped, and so that's the government we live in, that's the system we live in, and so it takes guys like you and others to get the word out so people can make up their own mind. They don't have to agree with everything I say or everything you say, but they do have the right to make up their mind, just like with this wokeness and diversity, equity, and inclusion. That'd be a good topic for another segment. But
absolutely,
Bud Light is feeling the pain for trying to cram things down people's throat and tell them how they need to think and how they need to act. So I'm glad that people are starting to stand up against that as well.
Well, every Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m., we're going to be live, and you're always welcome to call in and give us an update. We appreciate you, Scott. God bless you.
Thank you, Scott. Guys. Thank you.
Well, Lawrence, so your thoughts on that? So we've covered a lot of ground already this evening.
Yes.
It's almost like we chop more wood than we can put back on the truck to carry back to the house a lot of times.
No, not necessarily. I can do it. I can carry it.
Well, so look, we talked about a lot of things going on the federal level. Most of the show that we do here a lot of times is about Tennessee, but so what's your thoughts? What's your opinion, Lawrence, on the debt ceiling and the vote that we saw go through?
Well, the thing is that we were told one thing, and we got a totally another type of bill.
Right.
One of the things that they had mentioned was you had 80,000. We got 80,000 new IRS agents, and our Congress told us that we're not going to sign anything. We're not going to pass any type of legislation unless we get that removed. Well, we didn't get it removed. We only got like 25% of it removed.
Right.
So, but it's what we're starting to expect from politics. We're told one thing and then something else happens, and that's the reason when you have people like with Scott DesJarlais, when you have people that say that they're going to do something and then they do it, and those people are rare, and we gotta have those people representing us, and we got to protect those people representing us because they actually go and do what they say that they're going to do.
And his job just doesn't look easy to me. I mean, when I see what he's up against, you have everything slanted against you as a conservative. And for those people that are listening today, I mean, that's why we're here. That's why the Lawrence County Republican Party is trying to make these moves. And when I see Congressman contacting me in Lawrence, he contacted me today. They've heard about our show. And when he contacted me today, I'm like, yes, come on. We want to have you on there. And so I'm thinking that a lot of our congressmen, a lot of our state reps, different ones, they want the opportunity. And I know that we're going to have a lot of other guests coming on this show.
Right.
But I want to remind people this show belongs to the Lawrence County Republican Party. And people that listen, we know you're our friends, you're our neighbors. Even right now, if you want to call in, the phone number is 766-9393. That's 931-766-9393. If you want to call in, let us know how we're doing. If you think we're doing a terrible job, just send us an email. We're doing our best, and we're not the professional. I hope that we could be out here, Lawrence, and be honest with folks. We're just the regular guys. You and I both were working today. We come hustling in, and we come in and park the vehicle and jump out and come running here and do this show. But we feel like it's important, and I want the citizens of Lawrence County to know that. So we covered a lot of stuff. Is there some of this you want to go back over? I made some notes, and I'm an analytical thinker, so I have to process some of this.
Well, I mean, to me, the some of the biggest things that and he kind of touched on it, but it is just our nation is just being destroyed by this woke agenda. And in any of this woke agenda that's coming through, the woke agenda is hurting I don't care if you are Republican, if you're Democrat, if you're Libertarian, it doesn't matter. But the woke agenda is only thing it's doing is dividing this country.
That's right.
And it is not about inclusiveness. It is about exclusiveness. I mean, when we have our own administration that is saying that people like me or you, you're white, and that is the biggest threat in our country right now is white supremacy terrorists. And, you know, I hear that word white supremacy terrorists, and most leftist people would look at me, okay, well, you're white, and you believe in guns, and you believe in Jesus Christ, and you believe that you should not have an abortion. Well, you are a terrorist. But I don't see people like me that's going around and doing terroristic things, or even doing terroristic threats even.
That's right. And you talk about the wokeness of this country, and we're seeing that every day. It seems like it dominates the news cycle as some sort of woke agenda. And I was noticing as we were researching Scott, and I didn't even know this, we didn't get a chance to talk about it, but he is actually on the anti-woke caucus.
That's correct.
Which maybe I'm the last guy to find out, but I didn't even know existed. So our elected officials see this problem, and I think that we as citizens have got to pay closer attention to what's going on and get in on some of these things. What's going on in the anti-woke caucus? I wanted to talk to him about that. What kind of conversations are they having there?
Right.
I want to know what's being said in those circles as well, because I feel like that information is just not getting out to us at all.
Well, it's not. And you know, me and you, we have a lot of laughs over this, because we'll sit there and go, well, you know, I'm not woke, but I am awake.
Definitely.
And that's some of the things that is important that this program is about, is to wake people up. We are having our country destroyed right now. This summer, my girls are going to be reading 1984. They're 12 years old. They're getting to the age. I remember I was 12 years old, and I had my English teacher in junior high, in seventh grade, give me that book, 1984, to read. I can't imagine most school teachers today giving a seventh grader 1984 to read.
Not in a public school.
No.
Not in public school. And so I'm going to tag back into this, okay? You brought it up, but it's a topic that's been near and dear to my heart.
Yeah.
And that's school choice. And I know it's important to you as well.
Absolutely it is.
And what I'm finding out when I talk to people, and, you know, we're out and about in the community, or we're at work, or wherever we are, you talk to people about school choice, and they have no idea what you're talking about. I believe that it's actually, they're trying to drown it out. Any type of definition of school choice, any talking about, I believe they're trying to drown that out. To me, it's one of the best ideas that I've ever heard of for fighting back against the woke agenda, and for also the propaganda that's being taught in our school systems, and the grooming that's going on in our school systems.
The grooming, especially.
I said it out loud.
Yes.
But so I'm gonna be talking about this as we go through this, because Beacon Center of Tennessee is going to be at our next GOP meeting at the Lawrence County Courthouse on June 27th at 6 p.m. And I'm hoping we get a good turnout there. And they're going to be talking about what they refer to as a ESA, and that is an education savings account. And how that works, Lawrence, is it's a lot like a health savings account, like you would have maybe at your employer. Yeah. So you would set aside funds to, you know, pay for braces or pay for eyeglasses, things like that, dental expenses, anything that would be with your health.
I used to have one.
Absolutely. And that was back when you weren't healthy. Now you're. So, but the education.
Now I'm just fat.
Okay, well, at least we got you diagnosed. The education savings account it's kind of works like that. But what it does is where the state would set aside the money that you would be spent for your child to go to a public school, and right now the number is $8,000. Now, $2,000 still would go to the public school.
Right.
But the $8,000 would follow the child.
Right.
And it gives the parents a choice where their child's going to go to school.
Right.
You could go to a private school. You could go to a Christian school. You could go to public school. You could still stay in public school. You have all these other choices. And I think one of the things I really want to push on is that when people see this, they only look at the choices that are available right now. So if we looked at Lawrence County, you think, well, where would my kid go? If you have two children, what school would they go to? There's a few, and I've only heard good things about all the private schools in Lawrence County.
Yeah.
And my thought is, and my angle on this is, I want people to know that if you were to put $8,000 in the hands of the parents for every child they had, you would see a tremendous increase in opportunities come forth for churches, and we've talked to local churches. I've talked to local pastors that would love to start schools. There are other individuals, maybe they're not even affiliated with the church, would love to start a private school, and we would create competition in our Tennessee education, in the Tennessee education as it sets right now.
Right.
And we could also increase pay raises and things like that. We are conservative, capitalist people. We believe in the market, and the market will correct this problem. This is my opinion, and I'm going to hand it over to you. I want to get your response. But I think the vacuum that we have and the fall apart that we've seen with the school system is there's no competition. And they can walk in there and teach whatever they want to our kids, say whatever they want to, unless it's Jesus. Don't say that. That's offensive.
Right.
But nothing else is offensive. And so I think it's because we don't have a market system going with our school system.
Well, you're 100% correct, but any time that you have the government involved and on the federal end, and it's the federal government that is involved. I love that bumper sticker I see occasionally. It says, "Don't steal," because the government hates competition. Mm-hmm. And so when you develop competition against the government, then they may have to go, whoa, maybe I don't want to have this woke agenda that's coming into our schools. And I'm going to tell you, I have had access to the Lawrence County school system, even though we homeschool our children. My son Lawrence, he was a very good athlete, and he was always welcomed in open arms in the school systems to play sports even.
Right.
And, we had a little bit of pushback at the very beginning when he was in middle school, and they tested him. And this is funny. So they tested him, and they come back, and the lady comes, and she says, "Oh, well, your son, he's brilliant. He's extremely smart." And she didn't understand my sense of humor.
Okay.
And I pointed at Lawrence. I'm like, him? I go, there's nothing brilliant about him. This child will stand in the shower for 30 minutes and never even use shampoo. I go, no, I don't think so. And she goes, no, he did extremely well. He needs to come to school. And I told her, I said, ma'am, I said, as long as Jesus isn't allowed in school, then my son's not allowed in school. And it's like there was almost kind of like a little bit of a disconnect there, because she was like, well, I go to church. And I said, that's not the case. I mean, we are in a very conservative county. We actually have pretty good schools.
We do.
I mean, our school superintendent, Michael Atkins.
Yes.
That is a good man. That is a man of God. I know that man. I know that family. And I know that he's doing everything he can to make our school systems better. So I just say this. I look at it and I'm kind of torn, because I want to be the ones that decides what my children learn. And I don't want a government, and again, I want to stress this, it's not our local government. They are being dictated by the United States as well as the counties.
Sure.
So I don't want that. I don't want it to come across as that. But I do want to make sure that our children, my children, are going to be protected.
All right. Well, and so, Sam, talking about our school administrator here, mm-hmm. You and I have been going to these school board meetings.
Correct.
Okay, and sometimes those are painfully boring, but we feel like it's important to be there to see what's going on and to actually be present. Because if we're not present, we don't win. Must be present to win. That's our motto here, and what we've been doing for the last few years.
Right.
So,
right.
Do we have a question? Go ahead, caller.
Hey, Brandon. Hey, how you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Hey, this is Jacob Dale.
Hey, brother. How are you?
Oh man, blessed and highly favored. I was curious. What are the restrictions as far as getting some charter schools started in Lawrence County? What would we have to do to make that a reality?
Well, as it stands right now, and I don't want to act like I'm a subject matter expert on school choice, because I'm not. I'm a subject matter expert on my opinion, Jacob. So,
amen on that one.
I'll start off with that one. But I'll tell you, as it stands right now, Charter schools are actually permitted in 3 counties in the state of Tennessee, and possibly we're looking at maybe picking up a 4th one, but right now it's Shelby County, Davidson County, and Hamilton County. So where we're seeing is the charter schools there. Now, I'll give you an example of when you say charter schools and things like that. A charter school is a little different than a private school. It's still going to be government funded. But they can start a nonprofit, could start a charter school. And as it stands right now, if you wanted to start a charter school, you would have to go before the school board, and the school board can deny you the privilege of starting a charter school in your county. And that's only allowed in 3 counties right now. It's not even possible to do it in Lawrence County at this point. And what we saw in Davidson County last year was they had 13 different nonprofits that came forth to try to start charter schools in Davidson County. Well, I mean, this is a big surprise to everyone. Buckle up, but the Davidson County School Board denied all 13 of them. Okay, yeah, they did. They denied all 13, and so the governor had set up a system to where you could appeal it. And I'm not familiar with the appeal process in totality, but they did appeal those, and out of the 13, 3 were actually successful after the appeals process. So as it stands right now, the last time I talked to someone, there are 3 charter schools in Davidson County, and they are doing well. So let me say this, Jacob, while I got you on the phone, man, I appreciate you calling in.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, man.
So what is your thoughts on the possibility of pastors, and I know you're a local pastor, or maybe other people in nonprofits, and we do a lot of nonprofit work. What's your thoughts on the possibility of churches starting charter schools, or not charter schools, but private Christian schools even in Lawrence County? What's your thoughts on that?
Man, I think that's the only way that we get our country back, because the propaganda that's being pushed by this woke agenda is taking place in the hallways of the elementary schools in America right now. So if we got the churches together and we were allowed to start charter schools, not just as an individual church, but I'm talking, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 churches all pooling the resources together and providing teachers, providing doctrine, all of these different things. I think that could be a surefire way, one, to better educate our children by bringing God back into the center of everything, because our forefathers, they believed that fighting tyranny was their service to God. And y'all mentioned it earlier, there's a monopoly over the public school system right now. So we're a capitalist society, man. So competition always brings everyone up. It raises everyone's standard there. So if we can get it where we can have some competition, there's no way that anybody's going to be able to compete with a God-centered doctrine and teaching model. I don't think, anyway. And I think that it will only bear fruit 10, 20 years in the future, because we're already seeing what happens right now when you've got, leftists that have been raised up, and now they're the ones that are in charge of these, secular institutions. And I don't believe that the woke agenda has any interest at all in a variety of vantage points. They want us all to believe what they believe, and if we don't do so, then we're just labeled racist or terrorist, and that really offends me and a lot of other veterans out there, as far as Christians as well, who just want to see the best for our children and the best for our nation. And I think the best way to do that is through this kind of charter school program.
I tell you another thing I want to bring up, the monetary advantages to this as well. And especially in our county, maybe not in all counties, but in our county is growing by leaps and bounds.
Right.
If we have these, with all the people moving in, and we have these charter schools, and people are able to use their money in other entities, whether it's a church or any other nonprofit organization, they're able to take in that upfront cost that we as citizens would then have had to pay.
Right.
And we just could not afford. Well, we could afford it, and it would have to be done, but it's going to come with raising of taxes.
Of course.
So I actually see this as an advantage even on the monetary side of things, because it would take a lot of the pressure off of us in our school system and being able to having to build more buildings and going into debt.
So I already know liberals are going to hate this because it's going to save taxpayers money.
Right.
And it's actually going to give people a choice when it comes to how they raise their children.
That's right.
So they're going to fight this. So,
well, and here's another thing, Brandon. When you're able to do that kind of model, you're going to be able to pay teachers more, and you're going to get a better quality teacher for that kind of salary as well.
Absolutely. And Jacob, when I talk to the Beacon Center of Tennessee, and they're going to be here on June 27th, I keep putting that out there. I want folks to put that meeting on their calendar.
We need to have everybody in.
Yeah, we need a good showing.
Amen.
It's
Amen.
This social media stuff's just not working. You must be present to win. That's been a motto that Lawrence knows we've been saying for a long time. But they're going to be here, and they're going to be talking about the school choice and educating the public here. It's going to be open to the public, even if you're not a member of the Lawrence County Republican Party. We want you to come out and be a part. But on a side note of this, Jacob, and I haven't talked to you about this, but you and I are friends, and I want you to know this, that they are willing, the Beacon Center of Tennessee, to come to Lawrence County and to teach pastors, maybe community leaders, whoever would be interested in starting a charter school, a private school. They want to teach a class and show you how to start your own private school.
Praise God.
Yeah. So, and it's free. It's not going to cost you anything to get into these things. They are wanting to put the information out there. This is going to be successful. And they are trying to push legislation through the state of Tennessee as soon as the first part of next year. I mean, we're not talking about 10 years, 15 years out. We could see fruits of our labors within the next 6 months.
But I'm going to tell you something. If we do not stay on top of our state legislatures and even our governor, is not going to happen, because the money's going to start flowing in. And once the money starts flowing in, well, there may be a little bit of a change. Maybe we don't need to do this right now. And we're seeing that. We're seeing that a lot. And that's the reason why, if you want to have something done, you can't just vote anymore. The days of voting and thinking, okay, it's going to happen, the people are going to do what they say. We are so blessed that we have people like Kip Capley and Clay Doggett representing us.
Right.
Because we don't have to worry about what they do, because they do exactly what they're going to say. And even Scott DesJarlais, I could probably pull up Scott DesJarlais' voting record over the last 10 years and probably agree with him 99% of the time.
Sure.
So to me, someone like that, I'm not having to go behind.
Right.
But so many other people, that is not what they do. They will tell you one thing to your face, and then they will go and do something opposite.
Absolutely. And one of the things I want to start talking about is the reason we don't have school choice in the state of Tennessee is because we can't get the legislation.
That's correct.
And I'm going to say it. I'll critique people when they're right, when they're wrong. It's the Republicans in the state of Tennessee that we can't get the school choice passed through.
We're super majority. I mean, we're super majority, and we can't get these things done. It's like with the gun, the guns that they're trying to do with the red flag laws.
Right.
I mean, why are we even discussing that with 75% of majority?
Well, I'm going to put something out there as far as the school choice goes, and I'm going to start saying this, and when I put it out there, it's a way of combating the lies or the bad ideas that come along with school choice. And one of the bad ideas that you're going to hear about, Jacob, is they want to do a lottery. So and I'm talking about the ones who are really going to destroy the school choice option, right? So they want a lottery so that where you would apply to go to a private school and they would have to take you to get the $8,000. So that is ridiculous. These schools need to be able to do entry test, and they get the cream of the crop. If you want to go to the school, pass the test, take the test. And it's just like you were talking about your son, Lawrence, those situations where if they want to pick the best and the brightest, they have that opportunity. It's amazing to me how they want everybody to be dumbed down in this country. And I'm not calling some people dumb. It's just a matter of there are some students who work harder, and if you don't give an incentive, and we're capitalists, and the thing about the capitalists is we see the incentive and then we go for it. And there are kids, I've got kids that would do the same thing, that would go for it to get pass in these entry-level tests. We don't want a lottery system to where everybody's on the same, but there is talk, and I'm telling you, I have talked to some of them, and we're going to be pushing back against this as we go forward, because I want to see this come to light in the next 6 months. But they want a lottery system to where if you apply to that school, then they're just going to have to draw a name out of a hat to fill those schools. That would destroy some of those schools and what they're planning on doing. So I'm all for entry tests to go into these and a selection process.
And I think that's important. But that, again, this is why our system is so broken right now. You know, just going back to my son, you know, the lady looked at me and she told me this, and she was sincere. She said, when she was like, you know, you need to get your son in school. And even after I told her, I said, hey, if long as Jesus isn't in school, my son's not going to be in school. And she said, what you don't understand. She goes, parents do not have the capability to teach at a higher math or teach foreign languages. And I said, you know what? I said, if you're talking to me, I said, yeah, you're right. I'm a dumb redneck. I said, actually, English is my second language. I said, but my wife, on the other hand, I said, she speaks 4 languages fluently. And I said, and she has taught all the way up to college calculus. I said, I think we have those things covered. But but that's the misconception, is that parents are dumb. You know, there are things that I can teach, you know, my children. You know, I might not can teach them calculus, but I can teach them other things.
Well, if we had the education savings account go into effect, where you had $8,000 for each one of the children that you have to put them into a private school, you have people coming in. I'm going to throw you out there, Jacob, that if you went out and started a private school and you had $8,000 per child to invest into that institution, I mean, what could you do with that with a couple of hundred kids?
Oh, my goodness. I believe that we could completely revolutionize the school system. I really do. I get psyched up when I think about young people being able to learn, right? Because there's nothing wrong with learning. The knowledge itself is not evil. But when we take God out of it, that's what the Bible calls knowledge that is falsely attained. So the numbers are out, and statistics have shown that homeschooled children are statistically smarter and score higher on standardized testing. And here's the other thing about homeschooled children. They do less actual book work. Most of the parents that homeschool their children have the most success because they do, you know, their book work the first few hours of the day, but the second part of the day, they let those children do real life skills, building relationships, things of that nature. So if we had $8,000 per child, we could stay competitive with the best of public school systems. And I'm talking about athletic programs, music departments, all of those things, because you have a lot of giftedness inside the body of Christ that will come out and be a part of this thing. I mean, every person I talk to that's a Christian is super excited about taking part and kind of taking our country back, but starting at the bottom at the academic center. You know, then that's what the woke and the leftists have done. They've come in and they've stripped our children of their identity. They've stripped our children of traditional families and things of that nature. And that's what a charter Christian school could bring back. So yeah, I think that with $8,000 per child, I really do. I think that we could, instead of saying, you know, defund the police, we need to be saying defund the public school. That's what we need to go after and focus our attention on. I said this the other day that, you know, I keep my treasures in a safe, right? And the Bible says that children are the treasures of the womb. So we need to start treating those children as treasures and really kind of prepping them and starting them up for you know, being successful and productive members of society, instead of just teaching them things that don't matter, like, you know, what gender are you? I mean, you know, if you want to talk about academics, you know, biology has taught us for a long time that, you know, a man is a man and a woman is a woman, and there's nothing you can do to change that. So with $8,000 per child, I think we could be very competitive and, again, have children that are happy, smart, and very productive members of society.
Well, on the Tennessee private schools, I'm looking at some stats right here. There are more than 540 private schools in the state of Tennessee. The average tuition for a private school in the state of Tennessee is $10,287. So the first thing we have to push back against is the entry test, and they're going to try to stop the entry test. The second thing they're going to try to stop, and they're already talking about this, Jacob, is they want to put a tuition cap. So if the state allows you $8,000 for your child, then they want to put the tuition cap at $8,000. So the school would have to accept the $8,000 and not charge more.
Right.
Which is so hypocritical because they say it costs them $10,000 per student because they're going to get the $2,000. $8,000 goes to the parent.
Right.
$2,000 goes on to the public school. So it's really, you said defunding the public school, Jacob, but I got to say it's a win for the public school system. It would actually fund the public schools because they would get $2,000 for a student that's not there.
Well, I just gave you the example right here in Lawrence County with if we start having massive growth like we're talking about, it would save the taxpayers money, and it would keep the schools from being overcrowded.
So we don't want, that's true, and we don't want the tuition cap. If you wanted to go ahead and send your child to a private school, and maybe the price there was $11,000, and you wanted to take the $8,000 ESA, Education Savings Account, apply that to the tuition, and then you paid the other $3,000 on your end, then that should not be a problem for anyone involved. It's very hypocritical for them to say it costs them $10,000 per student, but then a private school is going to have to do it for $8,000. That is the level of hypocrisy that we see throughout the government. They always want to put a rule. If you know what, if that's the case, Jacob, then they should be able to do it for $8,000 per child.
Amen.
So they'll put a cap on everybody else except them. And so yes, I agree, and I'm glad to know that folks like you are out there. And so if we could get the church folks, if we could get pastors, if we could get people involved and parents to know what's available and what we could do, because this is something new. It's not happened before. But again, when you're past the point of no return, what do you have to do? You have to start guiding it from here, and we've got to pick our destination. We're not going to turn this thing back around. It's not going to be 1965 all over again.
No.
So on those two things, so if we could get the parents involved, and then if we could get the landowners, farmers, if farmers knew, hey, your property taxes will stay low. Look at all the different people this would benefit just in Lawrence County.
Just in Lawrence County. That's what I said. I mean, I've looked at the numbers. I mean, it was, it just makes sense. You bring in the competition. I mean, when you have competition, you're going to do better.
Well, Jacob, thank you for calling, my friend. God bless you and all that you do in this community.
Hey, God bless you too, man.
Listen, folks, we're going to be having our next meeting on June 27th at 6 p.m., and we want to see you there. We'll be at the Lawrence County Courthouse. Our guest speaker will be the Beacon Center of Tennessee, and they will be talking about Tennessee private schools. They will be talking about Education Savings Account, and we want to see your face there in the meeting. Even if you're not a member of the Republican Party, come on out. You might want to join up with us. Lawrence?
Well, I tell you what, to me, it's the best deal going with $5 annual fee to join the Republican Party here in Lawrence County. We don't want your money. We want your participation. And if you don't have the $5, we'll get Jared Menz to pay it.
That's right.
I mean, Jared's got the money, so we'll just pour it out of him. We'll shake him down, and we'll get the money. But we don't want to have anybody excluded. If you have Christian values, if you have conservative views, that's what we're looking for. We don't want to exclude anyone that has those conservative views, as well as wanting to participate.
The Lawrence County Republican Party, where we stand for the flag and we kneel for the cross.
This is WDXE, W287AA and W237FD Lawrenceburg. Broadcast services of Prospect Communications.
What happened today, Alan?
Absolute thunderbolt.
This is the Rich Eisen Show.
The Live Tour just merged with the PGA Tour. It stinks.
Live from the Rich Eisen Show studio in Los Angeles.
Are we serious? The Live Tour and the PGA Tour are merging. How in the hell does that work?
Today's guests, CNBC journalist David Farber, Pro Football Hall of Famer Terrell Davis, actor Patty Considine, host of NBC's America's Got Talent, Terry Crews, and